What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? You're in the building with your boy, the historian. We're getting ready to crank this BirdCage episode off right, going against the bagheads. But first, hit that like and subscribe button for us as we get this thing started. We got a hot one for you tonight. So sit back, relax. If you got something to sip on, go ahead. If you got something to chief on, do your thing. You know how we get down, baby. It's the BirdCage. You either get right or you get left.
Okay, y'all, this is it.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? You already know how we get down. You either get right or you get left. Hey, so we're going to do it like this tonight. We have Coach Cam in the building tonight, and we got our dog, K-Dub, the main, the myth, the legend into the building tonight. So we're going to go ahead and bring this cat into the building. So what's going on, K-Dub?
What's going on, everybody in the bird cage? Glad to have everyone in the building tonight. Glad to be in the building with Mr. Historian, Mr. Daniel Flick, and all of my bird cage family and crew that are going to be
Mhm.
joining us tonight and getting and delving into this Falcons business we got to attend to. But first and foremost, before we start, all our listeners and subscribers out there, please hit that like and share and subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. The Birdcage is in, and if you haven't heard, hey, look, this is where you get your top flight info for your Falcons, info for the future going forward. So this is the place to be. So get ready. Get your shoes belt. Get your seat belts buckled, and let's go. Let's get into it, historian.
Hey, man. So we pretty much have, at this point, our guy, Coach Cam, into the building. What's going on, Coach?
What's going on, family? Let's get to it tonight, man.
Hey, man. Got a special.
K Doug, can you hear him?
I can't hear anything.
Okay. Thought it was just me.
All right, hold on one second. Can you? Sorry about the technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. We will get the show started just momentarily. here. Historian, where you at? You lost in translation.
My man lost in the metaverse.
Amen. Lost in the metaverse, baby. We gonna get into it, man. This is the type of show it's gonna be today, man. They trying to. Hey, look, the metaverse bugs and the metaverse trolls out here trying to stop this shine of the birdcage, but we gonna make it happen today and tonight. So let's
Absolutely.
get it. For sure, man.
And to all our YouTube viewers, Happy New Year to all you guys. Wishing nothing but prosperity and blessings upon you and your families. And we're looking to have a great year with the historian and the birdcage, the marvelous birdcage crew. Excuse me, couldn't get it out of my mouth. But like K Dell was saying, we have some technical difficulties right now. But once we get everything settled, we'll get the show rolling, and we're gonna have a great one on hand for you guys. So just hang in there with us. Stay tuned.
Oh yeah. Oh man, hey look. We know we got Johnny come lately, you know what I'm saying, jumping there a little bit later on in birdcage. So look, hopefully by the next couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, we'll have this thing going full throttle. But just kind of just get our feet wet. We could talk about something as far as what's going on with the Falcons, and that's just touching on. Maybe I don't want to touch on it because he may want to get into that because I just seen a rumor that was out earlier today, but I really don't want to step into that water because his story. I don't want to spoil anything for his story
Yes,
for
sir.
for the for the host. But we're gonna get into it. I know people want to get into it. I know we want to get into it. We're gonna get into it, everybody. So everybody just sit back,
If you
be
talk about the
patient.
rumor that I saw, man, we
Yeah,
about to light this show up with this one.
yeah. So it's like we about to get into it. Well, but I don't want to touch on it because we got a format. You know how we like to do it. So hey, historian, if you're out there, come back to us. If you're out there, can you get released and come back to the bird cage? Fly back in.
Send a smoke signal, brother.
Where you at? Mm, it's very interesting tonight.
Very.
Very, very interesting.
Oh, the power in his house went out.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we restarting everything.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
okay. I guess we can talk about some out the cage stuff. We got any other topics we want to jump on? Maybe out the cage.
Ugh.
I don't want to really delve into that Falcons right now because I just feel like we're gonna get real intense in a minute with that once he gets the things restarted.
I mean, it's not Falcons related, but for the Bulldogs fans,
Oh, there
our
we
guy,
go. There we go.
our guy Julian Humphrey is coming back. He's gonna spearhead our secondary with KJ Bolden and the other young kid. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Um, so that's a move where I didn't expect for him to come back. Honestly, once I saw him going to the portal, I didn't expect him to jump back in, say he was staying with it. So either one or two things, they didn't have the money for him, or he didn't like the criticism that he was getting online. He wanted to show everyone that he could be the guy. So looking forward to that definitely, especially with the season we got coming up with that with that schedule, because we got Texas, Bama, LSU, and I think Tennessee. Three of those is on the road, and one of them is at home. So, we can get those guys to gel early. We're gonna look
Yeah,
real nice.
yeah. I mean, that's the same way I look at it, but I just feel like it was a conscious effort that what the other rumor is out there. The rumor mill is that we had to pay a little bit more to get him
Okay.
to keep him to stay. But I mean, it was worked out because he's valuable. That's somebody that you really didn't want to lose. So,
Yeah.
uh, but we have reinforcements coming in with him and like you said, with KJ Bolden on the back end and some of the other safeties and other athletes we have out there in the secondary. But I feel like he's a key piece, and they have a big role for him drawing up for next year. So that was also talked about to get him to come back in. But
Yeah, and I did make a mistake. We don't have LSU this year. We got Ole Miss on the schedule, so want to clear that up, make a correction there. So we got Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is looking like looking like one of the teams to beat in the SEC. So we got a rough schedule ahead, and I can see at least every SEC team taking an L at some point early on the schedule, because these schedules that I'm looking at, these are loaded schedules. It's not no pomp and circumstance type schedule that we've been getting lately. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be a juggernaut type season. Every player is gonna have to see the field at some point during the season, because you're not gonna be able to depend on the same 22 to 30 guys for the whole season. You're gonna have to utilize that whole roster to get through the season, as well as that once we get to the playoffs, this will be the first year that is happening. So every player should expect to see the field at some point in time, because injuries are part of the game. And with Kirby, the way that he likes to play fast and loose, we can expect all of our players to see the field at some point in time. But with Humphrey coming back, with him being a redshirt freshman, and him playing the snaps that he took, he could be the secondary leader. So, and if Mike Bobo was on his job, we can put up more points than we put up last season. But we're not gonna speak too heavily on that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they got a lot of things in store for next year. But this is the day and age that we're living in with the portal. It's kind of like it's a revolving door. Players coming in, players going out. You just have to adjust to what today and age is college football is going to be. As long as you recruit well and when you
Mm,
bring in the number one classes and you hit the portal with a vengeance and continue to bring in players just as fast as you're losing players, I think you'll be successful. It's just all about adjusting to the times, and the times now are it's kind of more or less like college NFL, almost like
yeah, yeah.
because that's what you do. That's what you do in the NFL is roster management each
Hmm.
season. So that's basically what you're doing in college now. You don't have guys 4 or 5 years like you thought you would. You may have them for only a season, maybe two
Yep.
seasons. Because they have other opportunities where it's kind of like they're hitting free agency every season. So um, it's a different landscape to navigate. But if the I think the coach that does it the best will be the most successful coach in this era, or as the NIL era.
Yeah, definitely. That NIL money is something different, because it's balancing out the powers that be, especially in the Power Five conferences. The
Yeah.
NIL money, it takes so much talent away from just one school, where it's trickled across the nation. It's not everyone's just not going to Bama anymore. Everyone's not going to Florida or Georgia anymore. You seeing kids go to HBCUs because they're getting paid, and the kid from the running back from Ole Miss just jumped in the portal the day before it closed. So I'm trying to see where he's going to end up because that kid is a complete back. So whoever gets him has a day one starter off the rip. That kid, he can block, he can run, he can catch. He makes people miss in open field. So I want to know who Ole Miss is bringing in for him to want to jump ship after the season that they just had.
I mean, like I said, it could be something internal. I feel like somebody like Judkins, when I seen that, I'm like, I don't think that was something to do with like just really like NIL deal. Yeah, I feel like it was something more or less like something internally that we don't know all the details behind that. He could be unhappy with something. I don't know, but
Right.
but the portal is there, so. Because Ole Miss, they're loaded up. I feel like where they could compete for a championship next year with the talent they have coming
Yeah.
back next year. So I'm like, that has to be something internally. My gut feeling, that's just my opinion. I feel like it's more than just NIL. But when you're a player of his caliber, one of the better running backs in the league, um, then then uh, then you have all kind of options where you can be able to go to. So when you have all kind of options to go to, then you're going to explore those options. I'm sure he has people calling off the hook soon as he put his name in the portal.
Right.
Uh, to where he can go to another contender and continue to uh, make plays and continue to maybe compete for a championship somewhere else. I'm not sure. The key thing is, where does he land? Does he
Yeah.
land at Alabama? Does he land at I don't know. I'm sure he's going to go to a power. Do he land at Ohio State or something? I don't know. I mean, I don't know where he's actually, he's going. I mean, if we didn't already take old boy from Florida, I would say we would need to go after him, but we already took a guy.
Yeah, we already got Travis. We already took Travis Etienne brothers, so we
Yeah,
don't
that's
want
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
too greedy. We don't
No,
be
no,
too
no, no,
greedy.
no. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We already have ETN, so I mean, I just felt like if I had a choice now, I kind of like Josh.
I would definitely take him over Etienne for sure.
That's what I'm saying. When I seen him hit the port, I'm like, damn. Why you ain't wait? You come decide to go in the port a
Sooner.
few weeks back? But it's all good. I mean, everything happened for a reason. We'll see where he lands in at. Okay, here we go,
Hey
baby.
man, I apologize about that. Let's get it,
Hey,
man. I
look.
apologize
But
about that.
guess
We
what?
had,
Guess what?
had some technical
That was
difficulties.
the out the cage segment. That's all that was. Now we in the game.
Hey man, let's hold up, man. Hold up. Let me go ahead and grab this cat by the tail. I got you right here, dog. I had to get this thing back on, so you know how just so how about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, you guys hear me perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to make sure. So welcome back to the cage, everybody. I apologize about that. Had to get some technical difficulties squared away. I guess maybe it disappeared. But hey, welcome to the cage, Daniel. Nice to have you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. I'm excited about it. Happy to be on.
Hey man, we got to get it right, man. That's why we say you either get right or you get left. We always get it right. So we do some sound bites throughout the show sometimes, but
How you doing?
hey, it's just one of those things, man. So as Coach Prime would always say, he just got time today. So I'm on one today. So we got some time, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome into the cage. I apologize about that. Thank you, K Dub, Coach Cam, Graybeard for holding it down for everybody. So now let's go ahead and do it like this. So first off, we're gonna go ahead and start off with Mr. Flick. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where'd you graduate from, and how did you get into Sports Illustrated and covering the Falcons in the NFL Combine?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Alabama. So relatively, a lot of my rooting interest as a kid kind of started in the South. And then I kind of started to form a bit of a brand online, writing about Falcon stuff, and I found that I really enjoyed talking to people who know things, and that kind of parlayed into writing a little bit more. And then I actually ended up starting writing Falcon stuff for SI my senior year of high school, actually. So I started young. And yeah, so I mean, it kind of parlayed to the point to where I started to increase my reputation, and then ended up being credentialed by the NFL last spring. I covered Atlanta, the Shrine Bowl, and then NFL Combine, and then got credentialed by the Falcons over the summer. So that's kind of been the process there. Again, when I was a kid, I just loved watching the NFL, loved watching Atlanta sports. And so it's kind of a dream come true in a way.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's a way to get it started. Now we also saw, like you said, you Indiana Hoosier. Did you attend Indiana, or did you just cover the Hoosiers during your time when you were first starting off?
A little bit of both. Yeah, attend. That's love Bloomington. Awesome place, awesome college town with a very strong track record of producing good writers. So, yeah, Hoosiers, man. Not exactly known for for football, but it's a fun beat. It's a fun beat.
We need you to go ahead and check Heather Dinich next time you see her or whatnot, because she definitely is an SEC hater, and we tired of that, man. We hear that BS all the time, so you can tell her to go ahead and kick rocks, man.
Yeah, she's yeah, among the IU grads, she's not one of the ones I'm more fond of for her takes, but you know, I mean, hey, she's doing well for herself.
She's got to have a job. Somebody got to be the villain, right?
Sure, yeah, she's doing well for herself in that role.
Villain.
She's doing well.
Just let her know this probably be the last time that she'll ever get a championship without an SEC team. Everything else, now that you're opening up to 12 teams, so hey, just be prepared for us to come back. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with these Falcons and whatnot. I know the magnificent BirdCage crew held it down and pretty much put you up on game how we run things around here, and just pretty much wanted to show you some love. So let's get to it, man. You're the guest for tonight in the BirdCage. So the first thing we do in here, we talk about the Dirtybirdz Topics, and the first thing that we have going on right now is, hey, Arthur Smith's picks have been questionable. With the way that things are turning out. That's 3 years in a row with mediocre records. Hey, it's fact. Y'all can laugh all you want to, but it's true. And Terry Fontenot has to sign off on it, even though he might not have a big hand in what he might want because of what Arthur wants on offense. So what's your take on understanding the process of what the Falcons are doing when it comes to scouting in their front office? Because we question how the scouting is done, because we think we miss out on a lot of gems because of lack of effort or thereof. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it's more collaborative than a lot of people kind of think it is, as far as what the staff wants, and then what Fontenot and his group wants. That's something Arthur Blank actually talked about in August, way back in August at camp, was that this regime that they have now has worked together as well as any of the other ones have that he's ever overseen. And so I think there's more of, it's not entirely one-sided. I think a lot of people have that idea of Arthur Smith completely runs that or this or that. It's more collaborative than what a lot of people perceive it to be. And this is a year-long process for them. This is something where they have, I remember last year, last college football season, the Falcons had Kyle Smith, one of their executives, at the, I think, Texas versus Iowa State game in early October, which of course you end up you end up drafting Bijan Robinson at pick 8 overall. And it's like, that's kind of probably where the interest started, right? Because he had about 160 yards from scrimmage that game. So This is a year-long process, right? To where it's not just Arthur Smith, it's not just Fontenot, it's Fontenot's staff is finding as much as they can, and then you have Smith's group coming in after the season ends and telling Fontenot's staff what they want, and then you get those two working together from really early February onward through the draft. But yeah, it is more collaborative, I think, than a lot of people think it is. And I think you're seeing that process continue to improve. I mean, the draft they had this year, you've got 5 out of their 6 guys were playing significant snaps right now and playing at a high level.
Yep.
And I think that's when I think back to year one in that 2021 draft, they had about 3 months to come in and figure it all out. And you're losing such a big part of that evaluation period. So I think we're kind of continuing to see that process improve to where it's as strong as it's ever been right now. But I do think it's extremely collaborative.
So here's another question I have for you, and they're gonna probably laugh when I say this, but why doesn't the front office and their scouting department, that's part of Terry Fontenot's team and Arthur Smith's team, why in the world aren't they looking at HBCUs? Because there's a ton of guys who have come out of historically black colleges and universities as well. Now, we love the big time schools, but on this show, we actually do promote HBCUs. So hopefully I don't make you feel uncomfortable with the question, but it's something that has to be asked, because I said a long time ago that Richie Grant should have never been drafted. There was a guy by the name of Marquise Bell that was behind him at UCF, and I know this because y'all can check out my boy Curtis Francis, former UCF running back, Kappa Alpha Psi member. You know what it is. Shout out to those Diamond Boys. And outside of that, he told me it was a lot of boosters and a lot of people who paid money because they like Richie Grant more so than Bell. Bell left, goes to FAMU, becomes literally the top safety prospect out of the HBCUs, and was ranked out of all, even the D1 schools, he was ranked the number 2 safety in the country. Dallas takes him as an undrafted free agent. He moves up from being undrafted, being a 7th round guy, to now pretty much being on the field, starting in between safety and outside linebacker, and literally has been a playmaker since day one. And the issue that we have with the Falcons is this: when are you going to start digging deep and really looking around at these areas?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do know there's been at least a little bit of interest. I remember, I think it was the off season of 2022. Atlanta was actually the first NFL team that rolled through Florida A&M that summer when they started fall ball. Obviously, Florida A&M had Isaiah Land, who ended up, I can't remember if he got drafted or not, but he was an extremely productive player at FAMU off the edge. Extremely athletic, very, very high character individual. He was a fun guy to talk to. There's been a lot of good HBCU talent, and that's something that Terry Fontenot was asked about last year, I believe, and talked about that there are options there. Why they haven't tapped into it quite yet, it's a little bit more uncertain, right? That's one of the things we never really would fully find out. I do think, though, that I don't think that in terms of their process, they've completely ignored it. I do think that's something that you'd like to see continue to improve, though, because as far as I'm concerned, they looked into Isaiah Land last year and then never really revisited the topic. And for as athletic as he was, I feel like that's not exactly what you'd like within your process. But, I would assume, for as much as they have looked in the past, that it ultimately comes down to schematic fit and whether or not they find that player to be a fit. Why the guys in the HBCU aren't a fit for what they want to do, that's another problem, I feel like, within that realm. But yeah, it's a very tricky question, and probably a question that I'm not sure Terry Fontenot would ever openly address, just in terms of the really deep intricacies of it, honestly.
Well, he doesn't have to answer that question, Daniel, because let's be honest. You look at the greatest pass rusher, and no, it's not John Abraham, ladies and gentlemen. Your greatest pass rusher in Falcons history is the Hall of Famer Claude Humphrey, who came out of Tennessee State University. Then you also had Ken Reeves, who was a hell of a safety for the Falcons, and he was keeping stuff tight before Tom Pridemore came in and everybody else followed suit. So a lot of your best players, Alfred Jenkins, who was a great receiver, Morris Brown, right across the street. So all I'm saying is I think we should explore more of that. But I'm not gonna get too heavy into that because that's a whole nother segment or whatnot. We bring you back for that one. I apologize if I made you a little uncomfortable, but that was a question I wanted to ask.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, I last year in Vegas, a lot of the HBCU guys I talked to were like truly pleasant and talented individuals who I think are more than deserving of NFL opportunities, and not a lot of those guys ended up being drafted, which I did not completely understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and skip to the next topic. I'm actually gonna let Hey, Dub, jump on this one because we talked about the Falcons. Did they test the waters for Justin Fields? I'm gonna let K Dub start this one.
Oh, test the water for Justin Fields. Oh man, I'm like, I think I'm in that boat of develop your own quarterback. That's just the boat I'm in. Uh, I just feel like you need to homegrown your own quarterback. That's just the boat I'm in. I feel like Chicago is gonna build around Fields. That's what I would do instead of going into the draft pool and bringing in another guy and starting from scratch with another guy. Build him up, build around him with those two first round picks, and go on, move on, and let Chicago Bears handle Chicago Bears business. We need to handle Atlanta Falcons business. This is a plethora of quarterbacks coming out in this draft. You go take one and you build them up and you develop a quarterback. I mean, that's just the boat that I'm in on that segment. I'd rather talk about the guys that are coming out than to talk about Justin Fields repeatedly. That for a team that seems like they may be rethinking if they want to keep him or not.
Well, the other question is this. Now we talked about the guys that's coming out. Now we all were enamored with Michael Penix Jr. and what he's done so far. And the thing is, you also have to look at the injury history as well. That does play a part in the drafting. I still think he can play injuries and all. You know, Frank Gore was a great example of a guy who battled knee injuries in college as a running back and had a longer than 10-year career. So I think that should be an option to look at. And I agree with you on possibly drafting somebody. But would you think the Falcons would even entertain even looking at what they might try to give up for that gentleman for the Fields if they try to go elsewhere?
I just feel like if push come to shove, I feel like they need to say with the Chicago Bears, I'm not going to take this high ransom that you're going to ask for. You are not going to be able to pay two top flight quarterbacks. If you're going to take a quarterback in the draft, you may just end up releasing Justin Fields, and then I can get
No,
him off the street for nothing. Well, okay,
no.
well, we're not finna you're not finna hold my feet to the fire, and you're gonna give up all my draft capital to go after this guy. You
I
know,
mean,
when I can
no.
just get a guy, see what, and Penix may fall to me at 10 or 8 to 10, wherever we draft in that, and I can get him for one pick instead of giving up 3-4 picks for Fields. What do you think? It's a business now.
Oh yeah, it could
Daniel,
business.
so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gray
No,
Beard.
no. I was just saying it could business, but I, I agree with you to a certain extent. I don't think Chicago is going to let Justin Fields go. I just think they're going to see what can I get for that number one overall pick, in my opinion, and try to build around Justin Fields. I don't really see
Oh, you
them.
saying they? Oh, you saying they trying to shop the number one pick?
Yeah, they're going to shop the number one pick because if the way Justin Fields have built a rapport with DJ Moore, they'll be foolish to break that up. They just need to add on to it. You
Oh,
need
that's
another,
fine.
you
Well,
need
that's
another
fine.
play.
So
Yeah, you need another playmaker alongside of DJ Moore because they got a good running game. That running back look like he's
mhm.
going to be a horse. He's stable. The tight end position, maybe you can upgrade to that and also upgrade on that offensive line and protecting Justin Fields. So
Well, I mean,
Wait a minute.
I just think for me, you're gonna if that number one pick is gonna garner you for more picks. You can trade down and get quality picks. Like I said, you just
You
can
do
they no, but go ahead,
you
Ron.
do
Go.
realize who his tight end is, right?
Yeah,
Oh, commit.
He's got
That's
yeah,
Cole
Cole
Kmet, who
commit.
is a
Right.
top tight end in the league. And you're
y'all
saying
need to
upgrade the
upgrade that.
position? That dude is one of the top tight ends in the league.
I'm
What
not
else? I mean, I get that you
okay,
can get
okay.
other players, but no. I'm just asking because is it something that we were missing? Because I'm just
No,
curious or whatnot. Because I
no,
was like,
no,
man,
no,
that was
no.
his main target before DJ Moore came there.
Right.
True. So yeah, I'm mistaken. My bad. But I just think
No, it's fine.
they're going to get another playmaker on the offensive side of DJ Moore. They're going to improve on that offensive line, especially in the left tackle and maybe another left guard to protect his blind side. So I don't think they're going to get rid of Fields. I think Fields don't pretty much don't play himself probably into a contract extension. The way he's been improving for the last 5 weeks. So for us, for the Falcons, we got to ask, how much are we willing to give up? And me personally, I don't think we need to give up pretty
What
much
do we
that
give?
much
If they not,
to get a quarterback.
if they're not giving up Fields, what are we giving up anything for?
No, if they give you the number 1 overall pick, you pretty much got your pick of the litter. The question is, though, how much are you willing to
I
give
don't
up
want. I
just to
don't. I
get
don't.
that pick? Just to get that number 1 overall pick. You got the first pick in the draft.
It's
You're
fine.
number 1. How much
That's
fine.
how much is Terry Fontenot willing to give up? Do we
We
want
don't
another do we want another Julio Jones situation where we giving
No.
up freaking years of talent
Mhm.
just to get one man? Or are we gonna be like, are we gonna play it conservative and play it safe? That's the question.
We're not giving them no
Daniel,
5
what do
picks.
you think about
Let's get
this?
that cut. We sit where you at. You sit where you at. Somebody's gonna fall to you at 10.
Well,
I
Daniel, you go
think-
to the combine to cover. What you think?
Yeah. I think a lot of this is going to ultimately end up. I think whether Arthur Smith is back will play a pretty big part in this. So it's kind of a question that I'm not sure we can really answer fully in depth yet because, again, so much of that, I think if Arthur Smith stays and Fields ends up becoming available, becomes a very interesting conversation. But I don't think anybody really knows exactly what's going to end up happening with Arthur Smith. And then B, I don't think Chicago ends up trading Fields. So with where that's kind of at, I think Fields is quickly becoming a more and more unrealistic option. It feels so much like what happened last offseason with Lamar Jackson, and everybody in the league talks about how great of a fit he'd be in Atlanta, but it takes 2 to tango, and I don't think you're going to see that pairing end up happening. I think the draft becomes an interesting conversation too. If Arthur Smith is back, would he want to risk a year 4 that he has to win with a rookie quarterback? What's the veteran quarterback market look like? Then you start talking about the Ryan Tannehills, the Russell Wilsons of the world. Do you really want to enter year 4 with them? It's not a very fun position.
Carson Wentz.
And one of our
Just
good
more
friends
group.
and one of our good friends of the show said that last week. Kibo, well, shout out to Dogs with Dynamite. You already know. But she said last week, she said, Fields is an option, but she would love to have him in Atlanta. But you also have to look at the fact that when you're talking about this quarterback position, when are we going to bring in a quarterback coach to actually be able to help teach these guys how to be an NFL quarterback? Because right now, the wide receivers can't really help him out because at the end of the day, we still have a quarterback coaching wide receivers on pretty much on routes. You have Terrence Mathis and Roddy White available to be able to help this franchise and honestly try to help these quarterbacks become better pass catchers. So, I like I said, I think we should draft a quarterback, but if they do go in the direction of bringing in a quarterback, I mean, that wouldn't hurt, but you also have, like you said, conversations are heating up, and I know you've read some of the reports about Eric Bieniemy possibly being a guy that Atlanta looks at if Arthur Smith is relieved of his duties.
That's why I feel like Arthur Smith has got to go. Because if we can't move in a direction, if we can't move in the direction that we need to move in because he's here, then he has to go. You stop in the train, Arthur Smith. Because if we need to go get us a new quarterback and build our own guy, just like Chicago took Fields. And they went through the growing pains with him, right? And they building him up, and he's starting to get better, right? Right? That's what we need to do. We can't do that if he's fighting for his coaching life. Okay, your coaching life is ended. We go get a Bieniemy or whoever it may be, and then they can build up. And we need to get a guy that can develop a quarterback. When has the last time Arthur Smith developed a quarterback? Never. So there you go.
The 12th How did the old Earth, Wind and Fire song go? The 12th of never? Yeah, pretty much Arthur Smith developing a quarterback. Man, that's like you asking Jesus to come back down here, walk on water, and turn water into wine for us to drink.
Hey,
now,
he had done it before. He had done it before.
But that's a major question.
Tannehill was already a vet. Wait a minute. He didn't develop Tannehill. Tannehill literally learned the offense, and he became a better quarterback because he had Derrick Henry behind him.
Yeah,
it Think about it. When you got a defense predicated to stop, no. If you got a defense predicated to stop Derrick Henry, and you're talking about a freak of nature at running back, pretty much a defensive end carrying the ball with speed, you're not going to think about Tannehill like that. And that gives Tannehill time to throw the football. That was why he was able to revive himself.
Not to mention that man rushed for 2,000 yards, two consecutive games.
Exactly.
The key thing is how you develop somebody that been in the league already about 4 or 5 seasons when he got to Tennessee.
He was about 11 years old.
I mean, he former quarterback from Miami Dolphins, and then he went over to Tennessee. But like you said, Ryan, trying to cut you up, Kato, Derrick Henry had over 2,000 yards, 2 consecutive seasons. You had defense predicated to stop that one man. So it made play action almost like a poetry in motion. And then not to mention he had a young wide receiver who now a Philadelphia Eagle by the name of A.J. Brown. So we got to also look at all the other components and elements. And not to mention he had a pretty good tight end there as well.
No, I'm not knocking the pieces that he had in Tennessee. I'm just getting back to the core of the question that I pointed out, that he has not developed a quarterback in his coaching career.
No,
so he definitely does. He definitely with a capital D don't need to draft a new quarterback and try to develop him, because he does not develop quarterbacks. That's why he needs to go, because it's not going to work out in his favor.
Well, here's my question. Do you think Arthur Smith, do you trust Arthur Smith to be able to draft the quarterback that we need for the Atlanta Falcons? I'm asking the panel.
No. I'm gonna answer that right now. No to the second power, aka hell no.
Daniel, what do you think, man?
Don't
put him in a bad spot, man. The man got to earn his paycheck, dog. Don't do him like that.
Objectively,
I want to take this approach to this because it's kind of the thought I've had kind of percolating a little bit. It feels like if you let Smith come back and draft somebody in the first round, it's got to be with some type of agreement where he has more than 1 year. But it feels like if he's coming back, it'll end up in a playoff or bust situation. And then if you end up like, what if he finishes 7-10 again next season, but the rookie quarterback plays well at the end of the season? Then you're in a complete bind because you've gone 7-10 4 straight years, and that's just who he is as a head coach. But then you got to say, hey, what if we bring in a new staff and the quarterback that we just spent a top 10 draft pick on isn't a fit for what our new coach wants? Or then you end up completely constructing your head coaching search around somebody who has an offensive mind that fits what your quarterback wants. And then you're just in a completely just obscure realm of team building that you don't want to be in, that nobody wants you to be in, except probably New Orleans would love Atlanta to be in that situation, right? And so it ends up putting you in a really, really big bind, to where if you bring Arthur Smith back, there has to probably be a level of understanding there, but you just gave him 2 years of understanding with hopes that this year would be the year that he'd win. And then, you're 7-9 now during the season finale. So it's kind of all a long way to say that I probably can't outright answer the question. But
no, don't do him like that. The man still got bills to pay, so he can only say but so much. We ain't gonna put you on the spot like that.
You good, Daniel. Thank you.
So speaking of draft picks, I gotta include. This is gonna be a cluster of questions all in one. Has drafting Bijan Robinson become more of an issue of offensive continuity, and has it pretty much put CP in a position where he's been vocal about lack of inclusion with the Falcons offense? And pretty much Roddy White is speaking out, not just about Fields. He's also speaking about the piss poor effort that we've seen offensively, and watching how this defense has been killing themselves. So everything lines up in a domino effect when we talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead and start this one, and then I'm gonna let everybody else chime in on that. I really believe that drafting Bijan Robinson, no disrespect, was a bad choice. We did not need that. You had Tyler Algier, you had Cordell Patterson. I get he was nicked up, but you also had a guy who was coming in. We can't remember his name, and he showed out in the preseason. My thing was, why bring in a running back at the number 1 spot where you've had trouble with snaps, the last few years at the center position, you should have drafted a center, or you could have drafted somebody to take McGarry's spot, because McGarry is pretty much like a New York style pretty much a New York turnstile. If you're trying to go uptown to Harlem, all you got to do is jump over McGarry, you get into the quarterback. Easy money, just like a New York style train. It's the truth. But for my Atlanta folks, that's pretty much like him jumping on the train at 5 points or whatnot and outrunning Marta police and sliding into the train. It's just what it is. But I really feel like it's just offensively is piss poor. With all the weapons that you brought in, and you're supposed to be an offensive guru, you have to understand low self-esteem is not going to win you ball games, and you're trying to be the smartest guy in the room. You have to let your offensive coordinator do his job and earn his paycheck. And a lot of us as fans feel like Dave Ragone, we know he schemes up plays, but Arthur is the man that's calling them. When is he ever going to let a guy, get this offense rolling, as well as trying to include a guy that helped carry us during these bad years? What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you look at the one game in Tampa that Robinson was completely uninvolved with everything because of his headache situation. Atlanta ended up running for 156 yards and a touchdown, average over 4 yards a carry. Algier and Patterson combined for 115 on 31 carries against a run defense that's currently number 6 in the NFL. It's a lot of numbers in a very short amount of time to say that without Robinson, Atlanta's run game was still really strong against a really good run defense. I still think, as far as the continuity aspect, I tend to think it's not that big of a factor. I think it's more about how you're using them. Drafting a player as talented as he is should not have a negative effect on your offense, which I think is quite indicting on Arthur Smith and Ragone, as you mentioned earlier. But when you have a player, it's funny because so much of the offseason they spent talking about how he can be used as a slot receiver in all these various ways offensively. I personally thought, if you guys remember when Patterson arrived in 2021, he became the first player in franchise history with 500 rushing and receiving yards in the same year. I thought Robinson would have no problem becoming the second. I think he's at about 384 receiving yards right now entering week 18. That is nowhere near where I thought he would be. And the vision that the Falcons sold everybody on with him is that he'd have more than that. And so I really think the logic behind the pick, me personally, have never been too fond of drafting running backs overly high. I feel like we've seen way too many running backs who've ended up having successful pro careers drafted in rounds 3, 4, and beyond. But Robinson's such a special individual, off the field, on the field, truly fantastic. He should be, even though he's likely about to break Atlanta's record for all-purpose yards as a rookie, yards from scrimmage as a rookie running back, and has a chance to snap Atlanta's single-season rookie rushing record. Successful year for what you'd expect out of him, for what the vision they sold everybody, probably not what everybody thought it would be, which I think ultimately comes back to pretty much offensive coaching philosophy and then not carrying out the plan that you initially had for him, which ultimately leads to overall organizational, I'd call it a pretty big miscue from top to bottom, with a lack of execution of the plan.
Well, you can never have enough depth when we talk about defensive line and offensive line, because honestly, at this point in the juncture, you have to remember Jake Matthews is getting older. Not saying that he's done, but you need to have somebody that's going to be there that he can groom and have them ready. So when the Falcons decide to move on from him or Grady Jarrett, you have to have guys that are ready to go, guys that are room.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. And the issue that we're stating is this. We already know the reason why Dallas is so successful in so many of these teams, they start getting the pillars of their team that they're going to build around from the offensive line and defensive line in the first few rounds. That's where you get your cornerstone players. Now, there are some that slip through the cracks, and there are some that actually come in later rounds as well. But for the most part, you need a center. I get Drew Dahlman's numbers have gone up. I get it. But for us, we're saying it's too many balls that have been put on the ground to our liking as fans, or, even from some of the players even say, Atlanta shouldn't be fumbling snaps like that and turning over the ball as much as they have. And you have to have somebody that's going to be secure at that center position, because that's going to be your second quarterback on the offense. And that's who's going to get everything rolling outside of the quarterback. So truthfully, you have to have somebody that can actually get the snap right. So the timing is down. And so you can have these weapons to be able to execute without having to worry about these fumbles that are coming around. And defensively, Grady, he got hurt. And we brought in some guys. Anya Meta got hurt, but we also needed to bring in a defensive lineman. I feel that Grady could have groomed because we don't know how long he's going to be around. We know he got a contract, but at the end of the day, you got to have somebody ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think it's interesting looking at the way that they've approached the trenches. The offensive line has so much invested into it. You got Lindstrom's contracting 5 years, $105 million. I think Matthews might still be the highest paid player on the team annually. Obviously, McGarry had the contract. I think in retrospect, they would probably have not fallen for the 1 year 2022 trap that McGarry kind of had that breakthrough 2022. And then you get him at a pretty good deal for what market value was for tackles last year. And it just has come nowhere close, obviously, to replicating what he was. I tend to think that's a bit of a case of recency bias. Of you had 3 years of what he was, you have 1 year of what he could be, and then you fall right back to what he was the first 3 years of just continuously losing in pass protection. But it's an interesting situation. I think riding with Drew Dahlman was something that they wanted with Ridder coming back. Arthur Smith talked a lot about having that center for your young quarterback. And I think the fact that they kind of worked together for much of last season too was important for him. And so I think that they might have fallen into a little bit of a trap there too of, again, you want to try to surround Ridder as well as you can. You have Drew Dahlman there. You want to see what he has. And again, he has physically blocked at a pretty good level this year. It's just some of the other parts of that. Snapping the football is priority 1A and has obviously been relatively troublesome for him at times this year. But I think defensively too, you've seen growth there. I was kind of thinking about this earlier today. Where their sack numbers are right now, they're probably going to finish with more this year than they had the last 2 years combined, which is awesome. Awesome progress, right? But they're still going to finish middle of the pack in sacks and really middle of the pack in a lot of those categories. So it's great that you've made progress. I think you still need another step, though. And I think that's where it ends up becoming a bit of a question of how much more can you add. Obviously, they invested on Yamada, Campbell, Zach Harrison, top 100 draft pick, who's playing at a high level now. I want to say this, Ryan, with your point. They brought in Zach Harrison, talked a lot about the pieces they had around him and how they could help him grow. You've seen him grow. You've seen him get better. I think there's a very real chance if the coaching staff comes back, which I think is, again, a very big if, and you're able to keep many of these veterans in place apart from probably Calais Campbell, you're looking at a really good environment for a young tackle to walk into there.
And so, and this is the one thing, and all these gentlemen on this panel can tell you what I compared him to on draft night. And I watched him when he played against Georgia, and he had a great game being disruptive. No, he didn't have the numbers, but he's very disruptive. I compared this young man to a prime Javon Curse. If you really look at him physically, he's built exactly like Javon, same height, same weight, runs a 4.4 like Javon. Now, the difference is the mean streak. Now, the freak had more of a mean streak than Harrison. That's the difference. But when you look at him physically, you take Harrison's name off, it's like looking at Javon Curse all over again. And right now, as we said, he's developing. I believe he has a chance to be a great pass rusher. But the other thing I was going to put out here, I really believe that instead of drafting a pass rusher, you have one that you can develop with Troy Anderson because instead of using him as a linebacker, his size, his speed, his aggressiveness, and the way that he shows up in a bad mood, you put him on one side and you have Harrison on the other side. I think you would have one of the most lethal defensive end combinations in the league. Literally, we would really, and that would take a lot off of Caden Ellis, and it would take a lot off of Landon when you talk about those linebackers, if you get those guys in the proper position to do that. But getting to our next topic, we're going to slide because I know we'll sit there and evaluate those guys all day. Speaking of Troy Anderson, he's back. Just going to rush through this one here and get to our main topic. He's back, coming off injured reserve. He should be ready to go for week 18. Hopefully he'll be 100% ready to go and just pretty much ready to be the Troy that we know he is. The next thing we're going to talk about right now is pretty much the playoff chances and everything being on the line Sunday with the New Orleans Aints, aka the Bagheads. So yeah, we don't respect them on this show. So I'm sorry if it
No, we do
annoys
not.
you.
No, we do not.
We don't respect them on this show, and
No.
we don't even put up
No
a picture for
respect.
those jokers. We don't even like. Here's the thing: the picture that I sent you for today's show, I'm saving that for Sunday, but we normally don't put that up. I'm saving that for Monday. We got a Monday show because Sunday we have some things that we got to take care of. So Monday will be the day that we do the after show, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, but getting back to it, we got to head down to New Orleans. Everything's on the line. And pretty much it's like this. I just want to beat the Saints. I don't care. I don't want to lose to them. Now, don't want, and it sucks to say this, but we know if we do go to the playoffs, Arthur Smith isn't going anywhere.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing that we're all afraid of right now. Because we feel like we need better leadership now, Daniel, just to be blunt. And this Sunday, I feel like Arthur Smith is going to coach his butt off pretty much to try to keep his job. But most of us are already in front of his house with U-Haul trucks, with signs. Pretty much, we're trying to get him to Hartsfield Jackson Airport, expeditiously. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get his ass up out of Atlanta. So the Saints are 3.5 point favorites over the Falcons Sunday. What is it that you think with this rivalry game, even though that point spread is there, what do you think is going to make a difference in this game? Because it's pure hatred there, period, on both sides.
Yeah, trench play. Trench play. Very, very, very quick answer for me. Trench play. That's something that Lindstrom was talking about yesterday, talking about how they this is such a physical game. I believe Atlanta's run for 200 plus yards each of the last 3 meetings, 2-1 in that time in those games. I think that's no 1-2, but still have run the ball at a very high level. And I think that's something that, again, Arthur Smith, if this is in fact his parting shot, is probably going to go down swinging, trying to play the way that he wants to play. Right,
Well,
Arthur Smith. Obviously, run heavy, run identity. I'd expect try to be run heavy on Sunday, which again, the Falcons invested so much money and so much capital in that offensive line. I want to say the lowest paid player who's received a contract is McGarry at $10 million. Right, you've got a center endowment 4th round pick. That's your lowest invested player total. But I mean, between McGarry, Lindstrom, Matthews, you're talking about well over $100 million in capital, and then you second round pick on Matthew Bergeron. This is where you need those investments to pay off for you. If you're Arthur Smith, this is where you may lose your job as a result of it. And I think he'll go down swinging, trying to at least end on the way that his offense is predicated on. So I think you'll see run heavy. I think you'll see a very physical game. I think you'll probably see something in the realm of maybe low to mid 20s, high teens maybe. Kind of your average Falcons Saints game, what we've seen recently. But again, I ultimately think it's Atlanta's offensive line that'll probably end up determining the outcome of this game. And as I mentioned, and as you guys have mentioned, maybe Arthur Smith's tenure.
I think it comes down to turnovers. If we don't turn the ball over, we win. If we do turn the ball over like 2-3 times like we normally do, and we're gonna lose. So that's where it is. That's why I think it's just he says trenches. I say turnover, so it still got T in front of it. But
There you go.
we on the same.
And it's guaranteed. Look, we already know this. It's guaranteed. It's a few things in this life that's guaranteed: death, taxes, and the Falcons turning over the ball in 2023. You're gonna get one. You're gonna get one.
Hey, it's 24
Maybe I'm
now.
sorry. No, I'm saying 2023. We, and now they took it into 2024. So yeah, you're right. So coming into the new year, this is something that we know at the end of the season. We know they're gonna give us at least 1 or 2. We already know this. Now the question is, can the defense hold up from those 1 or 2 turnovers that they've given over, and can our offense sustain a drive? And that killed us last Sunday. We went away from Tyler Algier running the ball because we were force feeding Bijan. This is a question I have for you, Daniel, and a lot of the fan base. We all say this on Sunday when we watch the games. Why in the world do you? It's just like shooting. It's like shooting going to Vegas, shooting craps or playing. Why do you stop the hot hand when you're eating? You don't stop the hot hand when you're getting money in Vegas. So why stop the hot hand with the running game? Because you want your first round pick to look great. Are you concerned about winning, or are you concerned about his feelings? Because I think we need an old school coach in here, like a Bill Parcells, or a guy like an Eric Bieniemy that's gonna tell you, son, shut your ass up, sit down. I don't care about your feelings. I care about winning this ball game. Pretty much, we need a coach like that because too many guys' egos right now are up here. We need selfless players. That's
Yeah,
just, I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, and it's interesting too with Tyler Algier. He's such a rhythm runner, and you can visually see in games when he gets rolling how hard he is to stop, and that's something that Arthur Smith has talked about for a while with him. And again, he's not a guy that linebackers and safeties and corners want to tackle 20, 25 times a game either. And you've seen him have success this year when he's had those increased opportunities. It's really, I think at times it's Arthur trying to balance everything, and because again, he knows that everybody's not very pleased with how he's, dividing opportunities in the offense. I think he's trying too hard to make sure that everybody receives what people feel like they should. And I think that at times that intent ends up completely clogging the flow of the game, completely clogging where he's at with Algier. Because again, there have been times this year, even so far, where Algier has just taken over late in games. He's a guy, fourth quarter. He is a finisher. The Falcons started the year finishing so well in the fourth quarter, and lately have really struggled finishing. You've kind of seen Algier's fourth quarter impact really kind of varied too. I really think that's kind of been his internal struggle all year, is trying to figure out how, when, where to pretty much assign the football. And it's really, if he ends up being fired, I tend to think that his inability to consistently put that all together will probably end up being the main reason behind why the record is what it is.
And the question I have, and I want the panel to answer this, everybody in the panel, I'm just asking the question. And I'm going to let you start first, Daniel, because you're the guest in the house. You have Tyler Algier, and I've said this, and I got laughed at by Uncle Steve. Shout out to Uncle Steve's Lounge. And he said, oh, you need to hold off on that. I called it from his rookie year. Tyler Algier is the second coming of William Andrews. Say what you want, it's the truth. Not Jamal Anderson. Jam was good, but this kid is different. Literally like William Andrews was coming out of that backfield. When you talk about the 75-yard touchdown showed you the speed that kid has, just like William used to come out of the backfield the same way, and he was a rhythm runner. And the good thing about Lehman Bennett, he didn't mess that up. So my question is, you have I'm sure enough to say this. I think Tyler Algier is a generational talent at running back. Very hard to stop, good speed, deceptive speed, and falls forward every time he touches the ball. Why don't you feed him more? If he can do that, that's just me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation. I tend to think, here's the thing with Algier too, with where they're at with Arthur Smith, Algier's such a good fit in the wide zone, right? Such a good fit for what Arthur Smith wants to accomplish. Not sure I'd go as far as saying, that type of talent, as you kind of said, but still, you've seen him at his best take over games in Atlanta. You saw at the end of last year, completely dominate some of those games. At New Orleans was a very, very impressive showing from him. In Baltimore, he had some incredible performances last year, to the point to where I think if you're Atlanta, there's reason. Again, this all kind of links back to what we talked about earlier with the whole choice of drafting Robinson at number 8 and then not using him as a receiver more, not really executing that plan the way they probably could have. You think back to week 1, Algier had 15 for 75. I think he had 2 touchdowns. That's proof they can coexist. We really haven't seen that type of balance in a game really since then, other than maybe again that week 7 in Tampa when Robinson was out, which I find to be a very interesting.
He called a great game because he has too many cars. He don't know which one to drive. He's like, I don't know what's going on, man. Which one I want to drive? Which insurance do I pay this month? It's like, come on, man. Give up the play calling duties. At least come up with a scapegoat. You don't even know how to do that. Like, come on,
I want to hear Cam. What you think, man?
Nah, it's
coach. Get in here, coach.
Come on, man. Get in here, coach.
Come on, coach.
Hey, look here. So the one thing that Daniel said that's something that I've been preaching all season. if you go back to the Tampa game where he wasn't having to put so many hats on, he had to rely on Old Faithful, which was Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson. I've been preaching it all season. You allow Bijan to be who he is. He's not a between the tackles runner. He never has been. If you look back in college, his backup was the between the tackles runner, so he was doing all the cleanups up afterwards. So once you get Tyler Algier in a rhythm, because like I said, you get him going, everything opens up for that offense. And Arthur Smith has shown that he does not understand, situational play calling, because you have someone in Tyler Algier who had over 1,000 rushing yards last season, sharing the backfield with four different running backs, and this season it's only 3 of them. And when Tyler gets going, you pull him and you don't bring him back until the late 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter. So for this game, knowing that the Saints are not relatively great against the run this year, and me personally, I don't care if we get to the playoffs or not, Arthur Smith needs to be fired. Plain and simple, because it's 3 years. It's 3 consecutive years in a 3-year plan where we had a losing record every year of that plan. So I don't want to go into a 4th year knowing that we have a head coach with the losing mindset and a losing record. But with Bijan, I don't think he's necessarily a bad pick. I just feel like Daniel said earlier, he's not being utilized to his strengths. Because if you put him out out wide in the slot, or even how we had him in the pistol last week, it causes the defense to react. They have to react. They can't think about what's going on. They have to react to what's on the field. Because if you have Bijan and Tyler in the backfield, Cordero in the slot, that's a lot of moving pieces that a lot of defenses are not able or equipped to cover. So we really have to learn how to utilize those pieces. But honestly, the run game is the forefront of everything. We've seen how it started this season. Tyler was the main gear in the machine. And towards week 5, week 6, Tyler Algier started getting less touches, and it became the Bijan show. So if Arthur can go back to having it balanced and getting CP more involved in the game, where he's not having to depend on Bijan so much, or even Tyler so much, that's when we can see teams getting worn down, and then that's when you get to see the Kyle Pitts beat their receivers one-on-one. You'll get more one-on-one leverage on the outside with Matt Collins and Drake London. But everything starts up front. So when the trenches are holding down the fort and opening up holes, you got to give it to your taco trunk. You got to give it to him. You got to feed Tyler early and often. That should be the key to every start of the game. That's just what it is.
So you spoke on something last week, and we've talked about this for a while. Now you just broke down offensively how you use your running game. Now the issue that we've seen in the red zone this year is this: you have a basketball team at receiver and at tight end, and you don't scheme anything in the red zone to have these guys running crossing routes or pretty much putting 50-50 balls in positions of the end zone, the corners of the end zone, or you never try to throw in the middle of the end zone because that's a dangerous area to throw, too much traffic. But you don't use 50-50 balls in the corners like you should with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Jonnu Smith is another guy. We got cute in games trying to do end arounds on the goal line. If you're not going to run it in, don't do any end arounds. Just go ahead, roll your quarterback out, let him go ahead and float, and let your big guys jump and go get it. Use that height, because most cornerbacks in the league, are 5'11", in between 5'9" to about 6'1", 6'2". You have some 6'3", 6'4" guys, but it's not a whole herd of them. So why not use this in the red zone? This is something Coach Cam mentioned. This is something we've harped on. And Daniel, you are inside. You talk to a lot of those guys. Why don't we use our big men more in the red zone?
Yeah, that's been That has been the question really for 3 years in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Is red zone execution, especially Kyle Pitts way back 2021. It's a great. That's really the question. I think what ultimately comes down to, you see Arthur Smith. So many times he's talked about that. A lot of it is just kind of like what I was saying earlier. He's trying to find various ways to involve this whole group of playmakers that he has, to the point to where I think you've seen him become, pretty cute with it, trying to get too cute with it. Probably sometimes trying to be too smart for his own good, right? And I think you've seen at times, I think there's been times where the idea has been good, where you've seen them try to put London one-on-one outside, and you've seen an occasional jump ball, but it's nowhere near as consistent as what it needs to be. And I think you've seen Atlanta too at times try to rely on that run game identity and just try to just run it down teams' throats. And you've seen that work at times. It's had success at times, but again, they can't find consistency to it, because I feel like you see that plan vary seemingly every week. We can talk about offensive philosophy, and the inconsistencies there. We could talk about the way that Heinicke threw it, I think 13 to 15 times over 10 yards this week after doing it like 3 times against Indianapolis, right? We could talk about all of that with just how much they vary everything every week. Last year, there was so much more of a clear identity there. This year, it just feels like every week they're figuring something out. And it has not worked. And so I guess to answer the overall question about why they're not involving so many of these, I mean, the night they drafted London, everybody talks about Twin Towers. Red zone execution, I think Pitts and London have a combined 6 touchdowns this year. London's got 2. Pitts has 4. I want to say Pitts has I think of that 4, only 1 or 2 of those are actually in the red zone, right? I mean, these are however many red zone trips they've had. We're talking about 3 or 4 actual touchdowns within the red zone. So I feel like at times it's been a lack of effort to actually put the ball in their hands. And I think they have just kind of gone away from what could work. And I think they've tried to become too cute with it. I think that's ultimately as well as I could break it down. They're just trying to be too cute.
I mean,
Yeah.
you hit it right on the head, man. I just think for us, I thought Arthur Smith established what we are as a football team last year, especially offensively, which is going to be a run heavy. Ryan historian said we pretty much adopted the Joe Gibbs system with the Washington Commander, and how they used to just be physical up front.
No,
and
hold
run,
up.
And run
Don't
the
call
football.
them the Commanders. They are the Redskins
Commander.
with Joe Gibbs. They are not the Commanders.
Well,
The Redskins won with Joe Gibbs.
the Commander, formerly known as the Redskins. How about that? But
I'll take that.
how about that? But I just think that was the philosophy that we were going into this season. When you add in the Bijan Robinson, what he can do in space, and then you add in Tonka Truck Algier and how he physical up front, he give you them body shots and you get him in rhythm and whatnot. And then in the fourth quarter, when the defense is tired or whatnot, you can use Bijan in the slot. You can use a Jonnu Smith in quick green. You can beat him over the top with a Kyle Pitt, and how he can mismatch for linebacker and defensive back. And we truly have not seen that, at least consistently on the game-to-game basis. And we just trying to figure out, if you're going to draft these people, why aren't you utilizing them to the maximum capacity?
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, we all know that Arthur Smith has a thing with intelligence. I'm gonna just say it. I don't think he's just. I'm gonna just be honest.
Come on,
like,
man.
I don't.
Come on, man.
I'm gonna just be honest. I don't truly believe Arthur has the intelligence as far as football goes.
Come on,
Because when we first brought him in, he stated that he's not a football guy. So that should have been a red flag from day one. You're telling me you're not a football guy, and I'm hiring you as my head coach. That's a problem. Number 2, the one thing that Daniel just said is that when we're in the red zone, we're not utilizing rub routes, because we have most of our guys are 6'4" and up.
Yeah.
Jonnu Smith has shown he can get the ball if you put it up there for him. Kyle Pitts has shown he can go up and make the tough catches. Drake London has been doing it all season, making one-handed catches with defenders hanging all over his back. the thing is, why are we running jet sweeps and counters with tight ends on a one? Like that's what I'm saying. Like the situational intelligence of an offensive coordinator will understand. I have mismatches all across the board because if I line all these guys up, you have to play these guys one on one. You can't play zone in the red zone because you're going to get beat. Then you have your Bijan and your Tyler. You have Bijan and Tyler. So like you really have to. It's really hard for teams to really look at what's going on because like he's simplifying the offense for the defense because you have the playmakers, you're not using them to the best of their abilities and you're not calling the plays to put them in the best position. So you're dumbing down what you can do and benefit of the opposing defense because now they have the ability to sit and watch what you're doing. So and then on Sunday, we don't even know if Tyler Heinicke is playing. So we're going to get turnover Ridder. And, I mean, I'm already, like, shaking my head at what could be because we've seen what Ridder has done all season. So I really believe we're going to have to utilize the run game heavily on Sunday if we want to win this game, because if we put the game in Tyler's and Desmond's hands, bye. Arthur Smith got to go. Dez got to go with him. Take Tyler with him too. Tyler Heinicke can go.
Taylor.
Tyler. It all starts with a T. He got to go.
All of them got to go.
They all got to go.
Hey, how Robert Harris said, gotta go.
Gotta go.
You see, hey, you see what Bernie Mac said to you just now.
I ain't coming for no foolishness.
Hey, he telling you. My man Cam said he ain't coming with foolishness. He's calling it for what it is, man. And we've been saying this for the longest, that when you have a team the way that you have structured and you have all the means and all the resources, you got an owner. This for us lifelong Falcon fans, I've been a fan since 1991, really since 87, since I came out the womb. That's why I say I'm a BirdCage veteran, as you can see on this thing here. But all I'm saying is this: when you look at it, we had the Rankin boys. They didn't want to spend any money. They were too cheap. They were tight as a miser. And then you get Arthur Blank, who does not mind throwing money out the window. If he's going to throw money out the window for guys, bring in guys that are going to actually bring in value for the money that he's going to invest and not make it a waste. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, and I'll say this: Rich McKay got to go. I've been saying this for the longest.
Yeah,
You ain't got to comment on this, but I'm going to say it.
Yesterday.
He got to go too.
Yesterday.
Rich McKay, I'm going to tell you like this, buddy. You've been in that office a little too long. It's time for you to go ahead. If you're not going to retire from the Falcons, you can go ahead and keep doing what you're doing for the Atlanta United. You're doing a fabulous job for the Atlanta United soccer team. I give you that. But when it comes to these Falcons, it's time to put you out the pasture, because in football right now, it feels like the game has passed you by. And it's time for you to go ahead and promote Terry Fontenot, which I'm going to keep saying, and you bring in Louis Riddick as a GM. Because if you got a guy that can clear off the books as bad as what the Falcons had, bring in players like he did within the 3 years, and give us a competitive top 10 defense in the league, who was ranked number 1 in red zone defense at 38%, minus what happened last Sunday, when we got torched. But let's just be real, man. This man, Terry Fontenot, deserves a raise and an opportunity to explore that realm, and you get Louis Riddick out of the booth because you're bringing in a guy who played in the NFL, who also has been a part of organizations, who understands everything from the ground up, from being a player to being in the front office to now being in the booth. So my thing is, the more football minds you bring in, I think it would be better. And give Terrence Mathis a call. Give the man a job as a wide receiver coach. If you don't give it to him, give it to Roddy White. We don't need a quarterback teaching these receivers how to run routes. That's just what I have, because it's just sad, because now you have a chance to bring in old school folks. And this is my thing. You can bring in an old school coach like a Lovie Smith, is what I said. If he can get to the Super Bowl with a Rex Grossman, I think he could work wonders here.
They Puff Marshmallow
That's
Man.
just me. I think he could work wonders here. You take a Florida Gator quarterback, and yeah, I'm throwing shade Gator fans, and I don't care. You can take a trash Gator quarterback and get him to a Super Bowl with Cedric Benson and a great defense led by Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, and Charles Peanut Tillman. You mean to tell me that he couldn't do this with Atlanta?
Devin Hester.
Wow. Thank you, Mom. So my mom came in the chat. She's kind of clowning me right now because I was in front of the TV at 15 months old. She's telling the story. Thank you, Mom, for embarrassing me in the chat. And I was in my diapers screaming, "Run, Dion, run," when he used to get the ball in his hand. So thank you, Mom.
He ran. No
That's
lie.
my girl. No lie, my mom is gonna call me out. That's one thing I can say. That's why I try to keep her out of the chat as much as I can.
Now, come on in
But-
the chat, Mama.
Come on, Mama. Keep it up, Mama. Give us some more stories.
Hey man, listen.
Give us some more stories.
Nah, she ain't getting ready to give y'all no look. She ain't getting ready to do that, y'all. I still gotta make peach cobbler for my mama. Y'all better stop.
Nah, Mama, we want you in the chat, Mama.
No, I'm just joking. But Daniel, finally, with the final thoughts that we have tonight, outside of us appreciating you coming through, we really want to know, how do you feel this organization? How do you feel that this organization is going to go in the future when it comes to with the players that we have here right now? Do you see a lot of guys coming back next year, or do you see a turnover rate where they're going to let guys go and they're going to start bringing in new guys? Because we had a lot of 1 and 2 year contracts right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys that you would consider to be core pieces will be back. I think ultimately, with the way the roster is constructed, a lot of the guys who they prioritized in free agency last year and provided with all that, I think they ended up spending over $190 million in free agency last year. A lot of those guys that we've seen these big investments, kind of profit on early will be back for next year. I think they've done a good job the last really 2 off seasons of prioritizing certain players who've proven that they are worthy of that money, and then they've got them locked up through 2025-ish. I think you may see a little bit of defensive turnover if Arthur Smith comes back. You may see a few guys leave there on the staff. I don't think you're going to see a lot of heavy roster turnover though. I don't think you're going to see a lot of surprise trades, a lot of surprise cuts. I think relatively speaking, the talent is still there. There's a reason why this summer a lot of us were so optimistic about, what the year could be, because there is real talent there. There's really, ultimately, it comes down to who they put at quarterback next year. And hopefully we'll have an answer on that by late April, right? But they've got real talent. They have the pieces there to where if they have an offensive mind who can put it all together, then you can actually legitimately see this offense being one of the top 10 in the league with, again, Ryan Nielsen is a revelation defensively.
Yeah.
You're
Ryan
talking
Nielsen,
about
look.
offense, top 10 defense.
Yeah.
Something.
We like Ryan Nielsen now. He good. He's not great graces right now. Okay.
Him and Mr. Gray can.
He got a damn good. He got a damn good first name too.
Let's get that clip. Ryan Nielsen, you good.
Ryan Nielsen and Mr. Gray can stay as long as they want.
Yeah.
Ryan Nielsen, you can stay as long as you want. And I love the fact that you got the same first name as me, buddy. You already good in my book. You started off right.
I just want to get that clip.
So Daniel, quick question. Hypothetically, if we are to get rid of Arthur Smith, do you see the franchise keeping Ryan Nielsen and moving him to the head coach and bringing in an offensive coordinator, or do you see them getting rid of the whole defensive staff altogether?
I tend to think you would probably see the new coach start fresh. But again, so much of that is so dependent on who they bring in, past ties to Ryan Nielsen, things of that nature. I do think it is important, though, that, as I mentioned, they've got so many of these guys locked up. When you start thinking about the guys they signed last offseason, a few of the recent draft picks they brought into who've proven to be good fits and productive players under Ryan Nielsen, to where I think if you're a new coach coming in, again, ultimately it comes down to his schematics, right? Of if Ryan Nielsen runs the style he wants to run. But if you're trying to win early, you've got a ready-made defense. You've got a coordinator who's got players that fit what he wants. And so I do think it's a situation where they'd have to consider it much more than you'd see in a regular situation where a head coach gets fired. I think there's probably a higher likelihood he'd stay. That being said, I still think there's a possibility that, if not a strong possibility, he ends up leaving in that situation, probably in a lateral move. I think even if Smith comes back, he's going to generate interest from other teams. And I think that, again, if Smith is in fact back next year, he'd have to at least consider a lateral move in that situation to a franchise that's got a little bit more stability, if that's something he'd pursue. So I think that's ultimately Ryan Nielsen coming back. We'll see. Again, I know the fan base wants him back. I know the staff would like him back as well. There's a lot of things, moving parts there that would maybe hinder that from happening. That I think is going to be very interesting to watch that play out, from what I know.
Definitely. And what's scary about the whole thing is this. My thing is, if you're not going to promote Ryan Nielsen because he's a young guy, still getting his feet wet, still understanding the game at the NFL level, he's done a great job coaching defense. My thing is, why don't you take that 30-plus years of experience of Jerry Gray, promote him to head coach because they work well together, and let Ryan Nielsen have free autonomy of that whole defense. Let him do whatever he wants. Give him free autonomy of that defense. Let Jerry Gray supervise, because you already know that he's going to bring in a more than qualified offensive coordinator because of the time he's been in the NFL and the relationships that he's garnered over time. I believe that Jerry Gray definitely could help these Falcons get into a position to actually win. I mean, not just win a ball game, but I really believe he could actually help us get to where we need to get to, because of the experience he has and the old school methods that he has. Because if you look at the young guys, they're playing hard for this man. All those boys in the secondary that are being coached by Jerry Gray at this point, you pretty much see that effort for that defense right now. Offensively, if you get a guy like him in that front office, or go get a Steve Wilkes, you're gonna get those guys to play for him. So that's all I got for you.
I think there had been a revelation when he came in along with Jackie Bankhead Bake, who just been a gold chip of a pickup of an acquisition that we got this year. He just elevated the defense so much to where it is right now. So it would be nice to keep that core in play, but like you said, Daniel, there's a lot of moving pieces in the background that we don't know about that can jeopardize that core peak. The stuff that we've been fighting for as Falcon fans is having a stable defense to go along with our offense. And now it looks like it's reversed. Now we need a stable offense to match our defense.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get it, though.
I think we already got the defense. We just got to get the offense to match the defense.
No,
because
at this point, we got to get somebody. We just got to get somebody coordinated.
Yeah,
I think we got to give them.
Hold up, man. Hey, hold up. Hey, you got to do the fingers with it, dog. If you're gonna do it, rest in peace, John Witherspoon. Come on, pops, get that coordinating going. You got to coordinate. You got to get your offensive line to stop fumbling and just bang, 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 just like pops would say. So I got the clown a little bit, man. So we had time today.
We got the ingredient, man. We just need to put it together, man.
Yeah, we know we got it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. We had some issues, but we worked through it. This is just what we do. This is why we say, man, we birdcage veterans in here. We've gone through multiple things in this group, and we definitely still keep marching forward, man. This is just what we do. This is why the birdcage, man, we flying high, baby. This is just what we do. So shout out to my guy, Kate. Shout out to the special guest, Mr. Daniel Flick, for coming through for us tonight. We appreciate it.
Question.
Glad to have you.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I got one question.
And we made sure that I sent you that poster or whatnot. Made sure that you got it. So what I'm going to do is, you got to see what the rough draft is like. I'm going to get you one printed out. I'm going to get your information so I can send it to you so you can have around the office so you can kind of make some of your buddies a little jealous. You know what I mean?
I got one question for Daniel. One question. Right. Daniel, final prediction for the national title game on Monday.
Oh, good question. You know what? I'll lean Michigan. I'll lean Michigan. I want to go Washington. I have leaning on the tie with Michael Penix. I want to go. I will be rooting for Michael Penix. But yeah, I'll lean Michigan. I think Michigan finds a way to put it all together, and it ends up. It's funny. I think they play next year. If I'm not mistaken, they will have a rematch next season. So I'm excited about that. But for Monday night, I will lean Michigan. I'll go Michigan.
I'm going for the underdog. I'm going for Washington.
Yeah, I'm going Washington myself. I like that core of receivers. I think they're going to embarrass Michigan.
No, but that Michigan front, Kevin, it can force. I will say this. They finally got it right on the defensive side of the ball for Michigan. They got a front, Kevin, that could match up with anyone.
No, I like that.
Hey, just remember, Jim Harbaugh is leaving. So if Arthur Smith leaves, you better bring him in.
He been the hot. He's been the hot name.
They say he linking him to the Raiders job.
I can see that. I can see that happening. I can honestly see that happening.
They say it's very strong interest with him in the Raiders job. So look for that.
Hold up. I gotta do this one time, man. So y'all saying that, I don't care. Long as it ends up in fire Arthur Smith. That's all I want. He got to go.
I mean,
we will take you to the airport, but you got to go, Mr. Smith. Goodbye.
Yeah,
so
man.
We definitely appreciate you guys for coming on or whatnot tonight. Sports Illustrated specialist, Mr. Daniel Flick, also covers the NFL Combine. So a lot of the talent gets covered by this gentleman here. And outside of that, we want to thank the magnificent BirdCage crew for coming through tonight as usual. Definitely thank you guys for coming in. And Sunday, we're not going to have the post-game show on Sunday. We're going to have it on Monday because there's some things that have to be taken care of on Sunday. So definitely appreciate you guys for coming through, giving us your time and your ear. This is your boy, the historian. Shout out to Daniel Flick, my guy, K-Dub, Graybeard, Coach Cam. We definitely appreciate you for coming through. Y'all check us out next Monday and then also on Thursday because we got some stuff coming for you. You either get right or you get left. It's the BirdCage. We out.